Hi, everyone.
And welcome to Happy Not Satisfied.
I'm Dan Morrison.
And I'm Ellie Morrison.
And today we're both the hosts of this podcast. The last time I had Ellie on, it was the most listened to episode I've ever done of this podcast. So I decided to bring her back for a lot of reasons, but that's one of them. The people have spoken and we're excited to be here. So Ellie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We are celebrating a very special milestone today.
It's pretty special. I mean, it's
Special-ish. It's not like a big milestone, but we have been married for 7 years. It is our anniversary.
It is special. It's just not like one of those big numbers.
Yeah, not the decade or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is special because I feel like it's a milestone because this is our first anniversary with a child.
That's true. Also, don't they say that if you make it to 7 years, that's like the average that you're going to make it for the long haul? I feel like I've heard that.
Hopefully so. I mean, fingers crossed. We've been good up until this point.
It's been good. It's been good.
We've got a good track record so far. No, but I think the sort of, as you talk about Happy Not Satisfied, we've always thought about it in our relationship as well. It applies, and this podcast is you've talked to so many different incredible people. And a lot of what you talk about is career focused and how that career focus kind of bleeds into the rest of your life through sort of the Happy Not Satisfied mindset. But I like to use Happy Not Satisfied in my life first and foremost, and sort of how I really approach my sense of character and my fortitude in a day-to-day, especially now as a parent. Because what I think about when I think about Happy Not Satisfied is endurance. And endurance, not so much like exercise, cardiovascular endurance, but literally how you keep yourself pushing, in times where it's not always bubbly or it's not always comfortable or it's not always,
Which is often.
It's often. And I think we have both applied that in our careers and sort of our life decisions up until this point. But for me, it's particularly poignant right now as a mother and like with an infant. Because it's just, it's really at the forefront of my mind, like how endurance, physically even because of the amount of energy that I'm outputting all day long, but also just emotionally and mentally as you're sort of navigating the beginning of this whole new chapter. And so to me, that's sort of what's on my heart and what I feel like, applies to the Happy Not Satisfied mantra, lifestyle, mindset, if you will. But yeah, I think when talking about our relationship, and we reflect on it a lot and we joke about it a lot, because we always say, people ask us, was it love at first sight? What would you say to that?
No. It was not love at first sight. It was not love at first long time.
Love at first long time. I would say it was respect and admiration.
Yeah.
But
a feeling that something was there, but it wasn't all like fireworks and romance.
No, not from the get-go.
For a while.
Well,
it was in and out.
Through that commitment to endurance, and pushing through times that were challenging, I think we were able to build a really solid foundation that now, I feel like the house is not falling down no matter what might come our way.
No, I agree.
And we had a lot of really shaky times at the beginning there. Of course, we were a lot younger, so things tended to be a little more dramatic the day-to-day.
I mean, what I would say is I think we applied Happy Not Satisfied to our relationship before I ever talked about what that was or even thought about it. And that's honestly how we made it, and also now how we're sort of prospering in this relationship, because no matter how tough of a time we were having, or we felt incompatible in some ways, or just weren't sure if it was going to work, we were always still trying to find the ways that we can improve how we were communicating. And our default was, how can we improve this and try to make it better? Not, well, let's just be done because it doesn't work. And I don't know. I mean, there was a reason that little flame kept burning, and now I would say it's a massive bonfire, which is great. I think our relationship has been a crescendo, if you will, of just love and admiration for each other. And obviously that helped bringing a child into the world not feel easy, but easier and more doable because we knew we had that foundation. Because we got together at I would say a young age. I mean, it's funny because I think my parents are high school sweethearts. So to me, I'm like, oh, we were old compared to them. But we got together when, you were 22?
22.
Yeah.
So I had graduated from college.
We were very much finding ourselves back then. But no, I mean, it was not love at first sight. And I think some people have that. I kind of think both of our sets of parents had that.
They kind of did.
And so I think that also in the back of our minds, we're like, well, I don't know. It wasn't just like immediate. Does that mean it's right?
I remember that definitely affected me back then.
Yeah.
Because my dad is both my parents are beautiful storytellers in what they do. My mom in her career as a publisher, but my dad just in life. And he romanticized his courting of my mother, and how he knew immediately. It
was like a Disney fairy tale.
It was a Disney fairy tale, and it really was.
Yeah.
I mean, and so when we were set up by our wonderful friends, I remember being like, oh, I felt like a magnetism to you, but it wasn't like a fireworks explosion, it wasn't like this is the one. Well, and how could you expect me to know that? We were 22 and 23 years old. So yeah, but I mean, it was a slow burn, we really worked toward it. But I remember telling you back in the day, back in those days, like, it wasn't immediate, and we must not be able to be together because we don't have fireworks and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
My old coworkers could tell all kinds of stories that I was like coming to work so stressed, and I didn't know if it was right, and I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know what to do. It was tumultuous a little bit back in the day, to the point where we broke up for a little while.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not something we like think about that often, but it was just, we weren't sure, and we were still young, and we decided that maybe this isn't right, and it was right though.
It was right.
But it was it was a good decision to try that.
I have to give you credit because of course I was the one like volatile and spontaneous, like, no, like, we cannot go on anymore. And it was over something so ridiculous I don't even remember at this point, but Dan said okay, I remember the whole big dramatic discussion that led us to this, and then we broke up. We took a break for like 3 weeks, which felt like an eternity. And I remember,
was it only 3 weeks?
It was only 3 weeks, but it felt like an eternity because like from the second we met, we just were very much like attached, as much as it was tumultuous. But I remember in the car, like the music that I played to try and get over you and all this stuff.
Look at that.
Have I ever told you this?
No.
Oh, of course it was musical show tunes. No. And then Dan showed up at my door of my apartment where I was living with flowers, and he was like, we have to make this work. And it was Dan's headstrongness, obstinance, or whatever you want to call it,
resilience.
Resilience, endurance.
Yeah, there you go.
To put the through line in there.
Yeah.
When he showed up at my door, I was like, no, we are going to make this work. This is worth making this work. And I was like, okay, well, this is a romantic gesture, sure. and it really, we did. And what we found out about each other at that young age, and when I look back, very proud of us for doing this. It was such a when I think back, I laugh. It was a weird thing that we did, but we said, okay, we seem to have some sort of like miscommunication with like, I think we want the same things and I think our values are the same, but the way in which we approach them and the way in which we communicate them is very different. And I feel this was very astute of us at that tender age of
whatever it was, 20 something
foolery. Yes. Yeah. And we did an Excel spreadsheet. Do you remember that?
I maybe it was some kind of a spreadsheet. Back then, I didn't even really know how to use Excel. But
well, neither did I. But we just we used words. Okay, we weren't like doing numbers.
We made lists.
Yeah. And we said what
we both wanted.
Yes.
And we found out there was a ton of overlap, and we're like, okay, maybe some things here. Yeah.
But I think it was in that moment that I knew that I was committing to probably the most difficult thing I had done at that point, but the most worth it thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how, it must have been divine intervention, to be honest, because I was not this like patient or whatever at that time. But we ended up, just taking it day by day. Then Dan proposed. Maybe it was like 6 months after that or a year. I think it was like we were at this fork in the road of.
Oh man, we could tell the story about the engagement ring too.
Oh God.
Maybe we'll leave that for another
Maybe
time.
we'll leave that for another day. Basically, long story short is that we won't bore you with the details, but I was, of course, trying to...
Ellie has always pushed me along, and it ends up being a good thing. I often maybe overthink decisions, and you sometimes, I don't want to say underthink them, but you are a little bit less measured sometimes.
Yeah,
like
well,
with
I'm just very intuitive.
getting a dog, getting married,
Oh my gosh,
having a baby. I would say that Ellie was the catalyst for all of these things.
Even for us to be dating.
But to my credit, I listen and I go and I get there, and then, you know, looking back, it's a great decision.
Well, and now here we are.
And now I know,
so,
100%.
You're welcome.
Yes.
No, but yes, the engagement ring. Oh God, what a horrible story. Whatever.
No,
We're
wasn't
not
that
even
bad.
go into
It wasn't
that.
that bad. It was, again, but that was another example of both of us wanting the same thing, but not communicating it in a way that was super productive.
Well, and I think my expectations were unrealistic at that age, and having like all these ideals of what I thought, you know, this should happen by this timeline, and this should be like this grandiose,
well,
and
just
this should be
pressures of society and
Yeah.
peers and where you're living and all that stuff.
Which is funny because at the time, like I look back and I think we've been married 7 years. Like we were children when we were married. I mean, we were 26 and 27. You were 28.
Again, Ellie pushing things before I'm ready.
I know. I'm like, what did I do? But it's okay.
Oh.
We, you know, and at the time, like I was so young, but at the time I felt pressure. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we've been dating for several years. This is either gonna be the long haul or it's gonna be nothing, and we need to make. You know me, I'm so extreme. I'm like, one or the other.
No.
It's my Gemini.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, I think something that's interesting, though, is that we definitely, along the way, have consciously worked to have, like, a closer, more meaningful, better relationship that works for both of us. And that has been that's the constant, I think, in our relationship, and why it feels very successful right now, because it absolutely does. You know, I mean, I couldn't be happier, and I'm so glad that we went through the tumultuous times and worked through things and didn't just pretend everything was like hunky-dory back in the day, because now we're kind of reaping the benefits of that. But I will say, I think one of the final sort of elements to really our relationship feeling whole was when you did this, but it especially affected our relationship when I adopted Happy Not Satisfied in my life.
Yeah.
And took my wellness seriously, and like started exercising and eating better and doing all the things that I talk about elsewhere. Like, I know it probably sounds like a broken record, but that affected our relationship in a massive way.
Huge.
I mean, I completely changed and was able to sort of take a step back and understand how to make you happy, how to make me happy, how to make both of us just kind of thrive. But I couldn't have done that without the personal work that I did on myself. And I think people lose sight of that a lot.
Well, yeah, and I had done it prior to you because the motivating factor for my wellness, attention to my wellness, was our wedding, of course.
Which is fair. But you've held on to it since then.
Yes.
And I think, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this is proof, though, that both people have to do it. Because when only you did it, it didn't really change the dynamic of our relationship.
That's what I was going to say. So I went through my whole thing, and after that, I felt better about myself. It made my ability to control my sort of the things that I needed to improve about my personality and whatever, so that I wasn't setting you off all the time. So that just made things like a little bit more at peace. But I will say that, and I'm not trying to call you out,
You
but
can call me out. I deserve it.
I felt like I was just sort of tolerating you.
Oh, that's a little worse than I was expecting.
I'm sorry. I don't mean that. Of course, I deeply
No,
respect
I
and
get it.
admire
I was barely tolerating myself.
But
so
when you
I understand.
came home from work,
Yeah, it was
I was
bad.
just
It was
like,
brutal.
you know, like
Yeah.
just be just.
Because I was taking everything from work home. I was so stressed all the time. I mean, it was hard to be around that.
It was, especially because I felt like I was in such an exciting, energetic time of my creativity and my career, and me finding myself as kind of a creator and all of that. And I was making some really amazing things, and I felt so excited and happy all the time. I felt joy after, leaving the traditional workplace, shocker. And I was doing all these things that were just so cool to me. And I remember wanting to share that enthusiasm with you, but you would come home and I would be like, why are you like Eeyore?
Yeah. I was.
Yeah.
I was.
And then, on your own volition, you just like...
Well, that's the only way.
That's the only way. That's the only way. It's the only way.
I mean, you can ask my parents. That's been since birth.
Yeah, I have learned to just,
Which I think maybe some of that is in Leo too.
It's definitely Leo. Watch out. It's definitely Leo. No, but I've learned to just sort of give you your space and let you come to the realization on your own, because you always do. But if I push you, it makes it worse. So anyway, but once you made that decision, you were like, you just like woke up one morning and said, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm getting all healthy food. I can't live like this anymore. Like I need to get a hold of it. I need to figure it out. I need to get a hold of myself. Then I will say,
literally never looked back. That was what, 3.5 years ago?
3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And once you did that for yourself, and you really honored that journey. And I therefore honored it for you, because I was like, okay, he's doing this and he needs this space, and like do whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will say, once you were sort of operating at that like new frequency, it was like we were this way, kind of, and then now we're just so united in our partnership, in our the way we operate the household, the way we work toward things that we want in our future, the way we, when we decided and all the things, okay, now we're going to start a family, how we've done that with Leo, and I think the biggest thing that I want to talk about now in what requires, or what of our phase of life is required right now from the two of us is thought partnership with the family, and how are we raising Leo together, and how are we managing the household together, and how are we sharing responsibilities, and I want to commend you, because I feel like I just like tear you down, but then I'll commend you.
From tolerating to commending.
Yes,
I'll take it.
See, happy not satisfied.
That's right.
But you are such a thought partner in the way we operate our household. And I feel like when I talk to my girlfriends, or, somebody's like, about their husband or whatever, or memes I see all over the internet, it's that the husband is just like totally checked out and doesn't really, as much as they try and maybe help, hopefully,
maybe
they are mentally just not thinking steps ahead like a mom has to, with all the things going on. But Dan, his ability to like anticipate domestic needs since he has changed his wellness has just been like unbelievable, off the charts.
Well, I just think when you improve your wellness, your bandwidth increases infinitely. And that's the biggest thing that I noticed. I mean, is it great to like look better? Yeah. And feel better physically? Yes. But the amount of change I felt in my mental clarity and ability, it's like indescribable. And it's one of those things that you kind of don't believe, because you're like, well, how is that going to help your brain? It does. And it changes everything. And I appreciate you saying that about me. But I will say something that maybe you'll find surprising and interesting. I mean, obviously with Leo, our child, our son, he's 4 months old. He's the cutest and best chunker in the world. He's just very much a chunker. There are certain things obviously that I can't do in this situation, but I'm getting better about it, but there's a sense of guilt that I have always sort of carried, that I'm not going to measure up or do enough or be enough of a parent compared to you. And so I try really hard to like fight that, and you always make me feel good about it. But I wonder if other like dads out there feel that too, because, you want to be there for your child, but there is just only so much you can do. And it's an interesting conundrum that I find myself facing. Well,
first of all, there's nothing for you to feel guilty about, because you
thank you
go above and beyond every day to help in every way you can. And also, we are speaking from our personal experience, and we have worked out an arrangement that works for us in our family. And right now that looks like more of me doing more of the caregiving on a day-to-day basis, so Dan can handle all the other things that need to be handled, like putting food on the table and all that, But I think too, all of the progress we've made as far as how we look at partnerships and marriages and shared responsibilities with parenting and all that, it comes with, I think, the feelings that you might have, because you know, it's like it never will be fully equal.
Right.
Just biologically, it can't be fully equal.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an interesting point that leads into a lot of other thoughts, at least for me, the idea of balance, because I think, you know, you're always trying to achieve, I think, like a balanced level of work in the household and as parents and all that. But even just thinking about balance in life, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but I think that there's a lot of misconceptions related to what balance means to be productive and fulfilled, because it's not, to me, balance isn't, you take a look at your day and you have like just equal number of slivers of like work and rest and family time and self-care time. And, you know, it's, one day might be 16 hours of work, and then the next day you might have a long time to not do that, or it could be weeks or months. And then, you know, I think it puts undue pressure on people to think, I'm not having balance right now. But yes, balance is important, but it looks different for everybody. And I think that, especially, well, if you're ambitious too, there's going to be times where you have to just push beyond what feels comfortable. And I think sometimes going beyond what feels comfortable makes people think, well, I'm out of balance. Well, maybe momentarily you are, but I think for us to think about balance in a more productive way, it needs to be much more zoomed out. And so I'm saying all this for all those reasons, but also because I think it definitely applies to parenthood.
Yes.
Because, I mean, there's days, and like you said, right now, the pendulum is swinging towards you with a lot of like the day-to-day caregiving. But there are days where, you know, you go and do your thing and I take him. There's going to be periods of life where it's me and you're building something for Eleanor or your career or whatever, you know. And I think knowing that makes it feel okay in the moment, you know, and we have our moments, but it helps.
Well, and I think too, like it kind of zooming that back in, you're looking at a higher, like a 10,000 foot high picture, but zooming it in on a day-to-day, I'll tell you, like, I feel so unbalanced right now because, of course, what it takes to raise a newborn and an infant.
It's unbelievable.
It's I mean, like grueling.
It's the hardest. I watch you and I'm just like, this is the hardest job ever.
I mean, I feel like I have been hit by a truck every day before
She looks great.
Thank you.
You gotta say. I mean, for being hit by a truck every day, you're holding it together.
Although, ladies or guys, if you have it, but if you have a good under the eye concealer, because this is now a thing, I'm so tired that I would love a recommendation of a great under the eye concealer for mom bags. But aside from that, you're kind. I will say though, what you just said about balance is that sometimes it requires you to lean in like crazy amounts and feel uncomfortable. But when you look back on those times, at least for us in certain, you know, other seasons of life, I will say, when you look back on those times, they're the most fun because you pushed yourself and you were maximally engaged, right?
Yes.
And I feel like that with Leo, and I'm very happy that I'm aware of it while it's going on, because I'm like,
that's huge to be aware of it. That takes a level of
I'm trying, but
clarity that a lot of people don't have.
I think that when I get up in the morning, the other thing I was joking about with my girlfriend Ashley, she has a 1-month-old, and I texted her like, happy 1 month, you know, whatever. And
it's been a month already?
It's been a month already since she had a baby. I know.
Wow.
It flies. She's like, fastest month of my life. And I said, I know. And I feel like as a mother, this imbalance was, this is going to sound weird. This imbalance was just what I needed in order for me to feel like a sense of calm. Like, this chaos was what I needed in order to feel calm again.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy.
That doesn't sound crazy.
But
I totally get it.
What I feel is that, like I said, isn't that funny? Like, you know, there's just not enough time now in the day to have like a perpetual existential crisis.
Exactly.
It's just like, you have to do what is in front of you. You have to change that poop diaper. You have to, there's pee coming off of the changing table, and you have to like be in there. When you wake up in the morning, you have to come down and like immediately. And my mom always told me this, there is no greater, like, you won't probably feel a greater sense of purpose than like when you have this baby in front of you. And you
sense of purpose is so huge,
so key.
and
it's not
underrated.
It's not that I didn't have that in my career.
No,
but it's just a whole nother level that it's like, there is no choice. Like, you cannot just phone it in today, you know? Like, I have to, and this is something that I have struggled with. my entire life.
Everyone does.
No.
What?
I feel like you are just
With
always,
what?
you have such drive, right? And some
I still have
days-
existential crises.
Well,
crises.
that's never going away. You know, in this household, it's totally existential crisis all the time. As I feel like that's how we set our next goal. You know?
Yeah.
But for me, I felt like, was it career? Was it motherhood? I wanted to try. I felt this sense like I wanted to be a mother. I knew it. I knew I always wanted to be a mother. But when is the right time? And da 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 da. Well, all of a sudden, okay, he's here. Now it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have time. It's literally just do what's in front of you, do what's in front of you. And then all of a sudden it's time. He's in bed at night and I'm like, okay, I'm retreating to the bathroom. I literally sit in the bathroom by myself, whether it's in the tub or whether it's in the shower for 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours in the dark. That's just how I end my day. Because I'm like, I don't know if it's sensory overload or what, but I put this on Instagram and I was like, in my stories, I said, you know, is this a thing? Am I insane? Are you concerned for me? And a bunch of mothers responded, like the majority, overwhelmingly so, of the poll was like, yes, it is a thing. I think you just have like some moms responded to me like, I just sit in my car. I just sit in my car by myself before I go in the house, you know, for a long time. Or I do that, or I take a hot bath, or I have to take walks on my own, or like something. You have to just decompress mentally from sort of the strain. And that is, you know, somebody asked me on Instagram what the hardest part about being a parent was.
Yeah.
And I will say I answered it differently, and now it's 100% like it's the energy, the energetic demand and the
But
endurance.
that's also the best part. That's what I was just about to say is I think it's such a privilege to have something in your life that takes that much energy and engagement. It's almost like being in a flow state, you know?
100%.
And I know we've talked about this, but I have a professor. I'm finishing my MBA, old man in school over here. But
almost there, 2 more months.
I know, we're getting close. But he really, we had kind of an enlightening conversation. He's a finance professor, but a very forward-thinking, philosophical kind of guy. And he was talking about the importance of maximum engagement over maximum leisure. Yes. And you use that term maximum engagement, but that's, I think, such a misconception by so many people, myself included, even still now, but definitely before. I don't know which I kind of call it my like self-enlightenment when I sort of decided to make all these changes. New Dan, exactly. Old Dan was very much thinking, how do I find maximum leisure?
Yes.
And that's what I was always seeking. But you're never feeling fulfilled and not really even necessarily feeling happy all that often. And I think once you find something that you can engage with and it gives you purpose, that is probably not like sitting on the couch and doing something. And then, not to say that there's not a time and place for that, because certainly there is. But when you earn it, it feels so much better. And that's what I was going to say. It's like you earn that hour in the bathtub or whatever. And how much better does that feel than when it's like, oh, I guess I could take a bath today, and you get in the bath. This is nice. It's like Matthew McConaughey talks about earning your Saturdays, and I think about that all the time. Yeah. When you're earning the leisure, it feels amazing. When it's an option always, it just, you become numb to it.
Yes.
And parenthood is a huge example of that.
It's such an example of that. And what that made me think of was the beginning of our relationship. I would say the first several years when we were having all those like
ups and downs,
we were striving for maximum leisure.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking the whole time. I was remembering myself like just laying around and whatever. So lazy. And I was lazier than you by a lot.
Yeah. You were.
No hesitation.
But it was less about like, I would say it was differently motivated from me. It wasn't like, it was just literally, I want to go do something, take me somewhere, you know. It was like kind of like a temper tantrum.
And I was, okay, so here's the thing.
But it wasn't an actual engagement.
I was really busy at my job. Yeah. And so then I was like, well, I deserve to just do nothing. But I didn't realize that that's not the key, you know. I thought it was, but I had another professor, if you want to call him, recently tell me something really funny, and I think this kind of applied to me back then. Was he said his wife told him he had a type A personality at work and a type Z personality at home. And
that was 100%
I
the
had
case.
that, and now I realize, and it's not about being type A and whatever, it's just, it's a lot more fun and fulfilling, and I'm happier when I'm finding things to engage in when I'm not working, you know. And again, I could go on a whole diatribe about this whole thing, but I just think that is a lie that is fed to us by society and whoever, whether it's you should work and retire and then do nothing, or go to work during the day and you get home at 5 and then you do nothing. That is not the path.
It's a trap.
It is. Nice. Star Wars reference. Look at that. Wow.
That's not usually my genre.
If I wasn't sure before, now I'm sure.
Thank you. But I want to use that to plug our friend.
Oh, let's plug our friend.
Plugging our friend Joe Clark, who wrote a book. This is a lot of what he talks about as, a self-growth for the independent artist.
Joe Clark is the man.
He's
the
man.
book is called The Tao of Hollywood.
Do you pronounce it Tao? Tao or Tao? The Tao of Hollywood. Okay, the Tao of Hollywood. I don't know. Don't listen to me.
I thought Tao was a separate word that was spelled with a D, but
probably.
I'm not going to stake my life on it.
Mixing all of my world history classes from high school together. Okay, anyway, the Tao of Hollywood. Order this on Amazon. Joe self-published this book, and if you are,
he also just straight up didn't tell anybody, and then it was like, "Hey, I have a book." Like, didn't even tell his mom. She's just like, "Oh, I have a book out now."
He's amazing.
Oh, okay.
But he is the quintessential example of maximum engagement, and do the work, especially as a creative person. He's a writer and a filmmaker and all of these other amazing things, but as creative people you can tend to get sort of wrapped up.
Speaking of endurance, Joe has an impressive level of endurance and just relentless drive to create the life and career that he aspires to have, and it's really just, it's inspiring.
He's totally inspiring. And that brings me to another thought that I've had of our lives lately. And Joe highlights it extensively in this book. But in order to achieve the life that you want, it comes with sacrifice. Mm-hmm. It comes with a certain amount of sacrifice. And I have been thinking about this a lot because there are certain things that when we decided to leave San Antonio to make a move here and, make certain career changes for Dan and growth opportunities for me, we left certain things behind, right? In that life, certain comforts and, more space. That
still, by the way, we could easily go back to, but are choosing to forge ahead with some of our goals and dreams, and sacrifice is a big part of it.
And it didn't hit me until I had a baby here. And then all of the stuff started to amount. And I was like, oh my God, but we had a house in San Antonio and it had 3 bedrooms and I would have had a nursery and down the toxic Instagram rabbit hole, like the algorithm of my mind. That's like, but that
algorithm of my mind. That's good.
Trademark that.
That's my next album.
The algorithm of my mind. Oh, that would be a great album.
Look at that.
We can do it together.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be like a new show. It's just the two of us, and it's called The Algorithm of My Mind. No, absolutely
heard it here
not.
First.
Bad idea. But
you never know.
I the toxic Instagram, like the scrolling. Oh, that's another thing I want to talk tangent. But I have been really trying to limit the amount of scrolling time that doom scrolling. And I, of course I'm looking at inspiring things and visual escapism and yada, yada, yada. Like a certain amount of it is needed for my creativity to inspire it. But at the same time, it's very toxic for when you are sacrificing certain things about, a life that you, a certain level you had gotten to that was comfortable, right? You leave all that behind, literally sell it all, drive a truck across the country and start over,
Yeah.
And then bring a child into the world. You're really like, wow, okay, there are certain things that maybe I shouldn't have given up, or was that worth it, or whatever. And it is a constant
inner monologue
in my brain all the time. But I have to remember, look at yourself now. And yes, there are certain sacrifices that come with this path, but all you wanted 10 years ago was to be you now.
Well, that was that sweatshirt I saw somewhere yesterday.
Instagram,
what did it say? It was like, remember when you wanted all the things that you currently have?
Yes.
And I was like, man, yeah. And
it's so easy to, especially I think with ambition and, kind of that striving to get a little bit better the next day and a little bit better the next day. The benchmark moves.
Well, right. We were just talking about that. But that's the thing. This is why I lean into Happy Not Satisfied, because otherwise for me, it was just goals. All I care about is the goal, the achievement, and getting to the next thing. And then there's no sort of enjoyment. And the journey is what you're living in, and you ignore that because you're just thinking about the next goal. And that's that's obviously like this be happy one side thing I talk about and I struggle with. But happy not satisfied is trying and working to reframe your thinking of enjoying the process and extracting joy from working to improve, yes, but not the end result. It's not just I'm happy because I got to the end. It's finding ways to lean in and into and enjoy the process along the way, which it's hard. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about is like you miss sight of that if you're only thinking about, well, what do I do next? And I had a big revelation about that yesterday, and it just it's easy to fall off the wagon and into the trap. Like talking about inner monologues, you've got to always be having conversations. When I say you, I mean me. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, I'm always having these conversations to try and get myself there, that I was not even capable of having these conversations until I started treating myself better. Like there was nowhere, that wasn't on the radar until I could kind of clear myself out and in my mind out. Then I can have these conversations, and the tough stuff doesn't go away. You just learn how to deal with it and reconcile it and think about it in a more productive way.
And also, I think we've learned how to help each other through those daily ups and downs better. The more we communicate of like, okay, I'm having this thought, I'm having this struggle, this is what I'm working through today, like, help me. And don't tell me what to do, just make me feel better about it. Like, literally say...
It's tough to know exactly how to navigate that for the other person.
For sure. But there are some times where, you'll just say like, I just need to be babied right now, in a way that's like, I need your compassion right now. I don't need you to like, try and tell me that, a solution. I just need you to listen. I think that's actually a big problem in a lot of relationships. Is sometimes you just want to vent and have someone say it's okay, or you're right, not here's how you fix it. Well, that was huge in our beginning. It was a huge issue in our beginning. I remember that. And especially because your personality, you don't like to show your cards a lot, that's kind of the Capricorn way, and you are going to roll your eyes, whatever. But like the
astrology is one-sided in this conversation. Just let the record show.
Fine. But your house of cards is very like presented in a particular way, right? And
yes.
Yeah. And I am a little bit more of like a
little bit.
I'm very open, I'm not afraid to try things and look stupid. I'll show you my flaws. Opposites attract. But Dan is very like pristinely presented to the outside world. But I'm the lucky person that gets to see like all the inner workings. But it's a very complex house of cards, ladies and gentlemen, and others. But what I was gonna say, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Communication. How we need to be
it's kind of a swing and a miss for a while.
Totally. Sorry. Side tangent. Have I mentioned it's 4 months sleep regression?
No. I mean, it was a swing and a miss, our communication.
Oh, you meant me with my analogy.
Well, maybe when the camera turns off, I'll be like, Ellie, that was a swing and a miss.
He will.
No, I will not. That's not fair. All I ever do is build you up.
100%.
Tell the people. Come on.
Yes. And we are just always working to help the other person become the better version of themselves that we know they need. Yes.
That also, I think, is why we stayed together.
Oh, majorly.
Yeah.
You know what? God, I'm just all over the place today, but hopefully this is entertaining. I think the biggest, when I knew you were special and you were worth really like, there were many reasons that I
was worth your time.
Not my time, but the
being in your presence.
But the tumultuousness. Worth really like working on myself in order to make it all easier.
Nice save.
Marriage. But you helped me, and it was something that meant the world to me at the time. I really wanted to be in a musical in San Antonio, and I did, community theater at night. I would do my day job during the day, but I would do shows at nighttime. And I really wasn't good with auditioning, and I had not been taught sort of the strategy behind auditioning and how you have to literally fight for roles and compete and whatever. Dan, his whole life was with his trumpet background.
For better or worse.
That was his experience, and he knew how to approach it. And I went to him saying, you know, I want to be in Spring Awakening. I want to be in it so badly. This is, you know, means a lot to me, but I just don't even know where to start with how to learn the music or how to prepare vocally and whatever. The acting stuff I was comfortable with. The vocal stuff I was not. And he, instead of just saying like, oh, it'll be fine, he took me into the music room at the high school that you were teaching at, and he literally played out every single part. We recorded it all.
Recorded them, yeah.
So then I could memorize them. I could memorize whatever part. Okay, you need to sing this part on this song in an audition. Even though I wasn't able to read it, sight read it, I knew it because I had worked hard to memorize it. And I also didn't want an accompanist to be able to throw me off in the moment and like ruin everything. Well, sure enough, Dan's tenacity rubbed off on me, and his grit rubbed off on me, and he really like taught me and guided me through that process. And I was in the show, you know, because of that. And I thought, wow, there's something to the way that Dan's personality is, you know? And there's something to like really working hard at something and really, you know, putting your maximum engagement, you know? Yeah. It's not that I didn't work hard, but I just wasn't used to working as hard as Dan did for everything.
And well, there's also, you have to understand how to work too.
Yes, working smart and also working hard, I think is both. Kind of the way you do it. And that hadn't been my experience, and I wasn't really taught that. So that was a big moment for me because it made me realize like, wow, I had a goal that maybe other people in my life would have written off as ridiculous. And Dan said, no, we're going to do this, and you're going to make this happen for yourself, but I'm going to help you behind the scenes, and here's how it goes. And I think that small act in the time, it seemed a small act of kindness and love, like that servitude of the other person, you know, and really fueling their ambitions and their goals and their dreams, like that has been
we've always
the
had
through
that
line. Helping the other person endure all the things that it might take and the obstacles it might take in order to reach a dream or a goal that, you know, really is a mutual one for us, but individually along that process. So you know, that has meant probably the most to me out of anything within our relationship. Not that instant, but like that. Yeah,
no, I agree.
Undercurrent.
I think that with the ups and downs and the tough times, that for some reason we always saw that, you could say opposite attract or whatever, but we always saw that the other person had something that we didn't have, and it brought out something that made us better. Yes. And so I think that, that was an underlying thing that always helped. I mean, and you helped me so much with launching Happy Not Satisfied and with applying to business school, which was, God, that was an arduous
process.
I had no idea. I was like, oh, business school, cool. Like, I think I can do that. And then I got into it, and I was like, wow, this is no joke.
72 edited rounds of essays later.
But you could have just been like, yeah, good luck. But that was 50-50. I mean, you helped me a ton on that. So anyway.
Well, who knows what we'll face from this point forward. But, you know, it only will continue to get more complicated from here, I have no doubt.
But complicated and better. Yeah, I mean, every day is, when you zoom out, if you charted the dots on the graph, the line is going up.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm very thankful for that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been a fun ride so far. We'll see what next year brings. I'm always interested to this time last year, our anniversary last year, I was just
that's right. With
Leo.
Yeah.
And we weren't telling anybody, and I mean, our parents knew.
It was very early.
Yeah. And we went on a, you know, like a little anniversary weekend
to Palm Springs.
Yeah, it's fun. And I thought to myself, I wonder I always think, I wonder where we'll be at this time next year.
Yeah.
Because it is always interesting.
It is.
Nothing's ever boring.
Probably say. I mean, I feel like we'll be living in a different place. Like we've never settled. One day.
Gosh, and that's the thing that runs through my head all the time. I'm like, oh yes, and it's like a sick joke that I play on myself. So I'll be like, okay, great. I finally don't have to pack my entire everything and move this year. Sure enough.
One day.
Enough.
Happy Not Satisfied.
Happy Not Satisfied. Sure enough, we're packing boxes. We actually could be professional movers at this point, I feel like, with the amount of times that
God, don't say that.
We've moved, what was the tally? We moved like 20 times in the past.
Not 20, but a lot. But anyway, well, if it wasn't love at first sight, which it was not, it is definitely love at my sight now. That was not super eloquent, but you know, I'm really pleased that we stuck to it, and here we are.
Here we are.
And I think, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and every relationship looks different. And,
Yes.
I'm not just saying this because it's like, well, it's the catchphrase or it's the whatever. Like, we stayed together and then flourished because we were happy, not satisfied in our relationship, and we always will be, because there's no end in terms of like getting to a goal or whatever. There's no end to your relationship.
No.
It's a constant work in progress.
Constant.
And that's a good thing. And I think if you embrace that, it keeps it exciting. It keeps it working.
And we saw a clip recently, I don't know if it was on Instagram or what, but of Michelle Obama, and she was talking about
that
relationships.
was a really good,
and that was a really
good one.
She said it's not going to be 50-50
ever.
100, like ever,
Yeah.
100% of the time. And that's like a common misconception about marriage, is that, one partner is sometimes 80 while the other is 20. The other, there's just a constant,
back and forth.
It flips back and forth. There's a constant, when you're in that sort of real partnership where you're really working together in tandem to create this life together.
Yeah.
It's never going to be equal or like, it's not easy.
It goes back to the balance thing. It just,
yes, exactly.
When you add it all up and divide it, maybe it is 50-50, but in any given moment, it almost never is, right?
Yep.
And so, I think tying all this together and wrapping it up, a lot of people that I really like respect and admire that have podcasts or put themselves out there will so often set up this line where it's like, what do you think the most important decision you make in your life is for your career and for this and for that? And it's the person that you choose to spend your life with. Mm-hmm. And I feel very fortunate that I know that is the best decision I could have ever made. And whatever else happens is going to be great, but almost doesn't matter because we have that. So
icing on the cake.
Yeah, exactly. Our cake is very well made, if I say so myself.
Well,
so
happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary.
Thanks
I know.
for having me again on the podcast.
Oh, of course. We'll see. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Hopefully.
And I have to obviously say, if you want to find us on Instagram at happy.notsatisfied, or I'm at Daniel D. Morrison.
I'm at Eleonora Morrison.
And happynotsatisfied.com. You can find all the rest of the episodes of the podcast, some other stuff. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.